Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the XP Podcast, level 22. My name's Rob, and I'm joined by my co-host, Adam. How you doing today, Adam?
Hello, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a pretty good day. It's cold, but other than that,
Yes.
it's quite lovely.
Dude, the weather over here in Texas has completely just like shifted,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been cold, it's been rainy, mainly cold, not so much of the rain part, and I've really been enjoying it because
Yeah,
I love the fall/winter time.
yeah.
It's been great. I'm
But
actually looking forward to another like ice apocalypse where no one can go anywhere because that was a little fun too.
it's very crisp out there right now. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Those who are watching, those who are listening, thank you for joining us here on the XP Podcast. This is your bi-weekly casual podcast where we talk about all things video games and bring topics to the table to discuss for your amusement. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, topics, or corrections, let us know in the comments section or reach out to us on Twitter at Ambitious Casual, or you can email us at xppodcast@ambitiouscasual.com. And those who are listening on the podcast, those who are watching on YouTube, utilize the timestamps so that way you can just jump to the content that you want to, because we know that not everybody has all the time in the world to listen to an entire podcast. So
Mm-hmm.
use those. They're there for you. But as always, if you skip anything, you're skipping on some really, really good stuff. Am I right, Adam?
You're right. As always, the skipping around, while it is a service we gladly provide, at the same time, we cannot let it go without saying that you are missing great content if you skip.
Totally. Before we get into the actual show, I do want to say that on the last podcast, and I said this before, on Spotify or on the Anchor app, I will be posing questions on there. That way, those who are listening can go and answer them. And you can even answer them in the comment section of the YouTube channel as well. We'll go check those out. And the question was talking about, what are your thoughts on the Uncharted movie trailer? We got one response by John MB, and his response was very meh. Typical video game movie. And I think for us, as a matter of fact, Austin's not here. He was watching the Eternals. Totally forgot to announce that.
Mhm.
So he got tickets for the Eternals. But I'm pretty sure him, along with us two, can kind of agree. Yeah, it kind of looks like a typical video game movie at face value. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. Let's get right into the quick bits. I want to start off with the first big. Actually, you know what? Let's leave the big one to the end, because that was huge. I want to hit on a couple things real quick. Ubisoft brings Splinter Cell back. This comes from Video Games Chronicle, written by Jordan Midler. I'm not going to read the entire article, guys. Every single thing that we talk about, the sources will be in the show notes. So make sure you guys go check those out if you want to dig in deep into what we are talking about. And on top of all of that, Video Games Chronicle, I just want to say, is become my number one source when I go to video game news now. Like, it used to be IGN, and then I would cross-reference to a bunch of different sites to see where they were referencing. Video Games Chronicle is like my one-stop shop now. They're great. I love them. They do awesome work over there. And they kind of talked about in the article that, Jeff Grubb and a couple other people in regards to GamesBeat and even VGC as a whole have been talking about the fact that it's been, those that they are in touch with are saying that a Splinter Cell prototype is actually in the works. And those who have seen it has said that it looks and works kind of like the 2016 Hitman reboots. And we just recently got the newest Hitman at the beginning of this year, which I actually enjoyed. But the one thing I do want to say was this. By the small amount of times that they've talked about and the things that they've been discussing about this game, I'm not quite hyped with the idea of the fact that it is looking and playing like Hitman. And the only reason why I say that is one reason and one reason only. And this is my quick bit for this story, is the fact that Splinter Cell was kind of like it was the arch enemy, not enemy, but it was the rival to Metal Gear. It was always Metal Gear Solid and Splinter Cell. It was always those two. They had their fans. And unfortunately, and this is not because of the fact that I'm a Metal Gear fan, I just think in regards to gameplay, Metal Gear just got it right. Especially if you've played Metal Gear Solid 5, which in my opinion, not saying Metal Gear Solid 5 story is great. It is a mess. I can totally agree to the fact that the story is a mess. But the gameplay is unlike any gameplay in any video game. It is literally some of the tightest gameplay. Like the things that you can do and the how thorough and the many different stuff that you can do, man, inside of Metal Gear Solid 5 is unbelievable, that I always think about going back and playing it. I'm the kind of person that only plays games one time, so I really don't do that. But I've been wanting to go back and play with it. And so when I hear them say that they want to to kind of make it feel like Hitman. Hitman is very stiff. Adam, have you played any of the newer Hitman games or any of the previous Hitman games?
I did play a couple of the PlayStation 2 ones, or at least one of them.
Oh, nice.
So like, pretty way back in the day. I haven't played a lot of the contemporary models. I know that they make those a lot more, probably, I guess you would say sandboxy. So if I'm having like no point of reference for MGS or for Splinter Cell, I feel like that stuff's probably maybe a little bit more, I don't know, not handcrafted, but it just feels maybe a little bit smoother because they're not having to account for every
Totally.
single thing.
Totally. Totally. And I think what was the big thing about the Hitman games, that I think they were trying their best not to compete with Metal Gear because they knew that they couldn't do it. And that is a bad thing. They don't want to kind of copy. Hitman has always been pushing in the fact that you can tackle certain things multiple different ways. And usually with Metal Gear, and this is majority of the games before 5, everything was very linear. You did things a certain way to get to this one point. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was stuff thrown out in it. Metal Gear Solid 5 completely changed the game in regards to the fact that you can literally tackle camps. You can do, and the AI was so smart. If you're knocking guys out with headshots in one certain area over and over and over again, the AI will be smart. And then the next time you go to that area, all of them are wearing helmets. And then it just reacted to everything that you did. And so my one thing is this. I just think if Ubisoft's going to bring back Splinter Cell, they need to bring it back the right way. They need to come back strong. I don't think copying Hitman is the correct thing to do. I literally think they should literally be making the game and have Metal Gear Solid 5 right next to them as a reference, because I think that is what they need to do. Because if they do that, not only will you obviously bring back Splinter Cell in such a grand way, but I think you even have the ability to get some Metal Gear Solid fans to play Splinter Cell because of the fact that Metal Gear is dormant right now, for all we know.
Sure.
So that's my thoughts on that one. Next thing on the quick bits is Netflix Games is here today. It is here. I know for a fact it's on Android, and I think on iOS is coming soon. So, but this comes straight from Twitter, and this is what they said. Here are the 5 games available to download and play, with a whole lot more coming. And then, actually, I had so much more on this, but I don't know. I think I deleted it by accident. The games that are coming whenever you access Netflix on your phone, you literally will just go to another tab within the app that is Netflix Games. And the games that we can play so far, which, Adam, I think you kind of brought this up before when we talked about Netflix games, what games will be on there. You literally said Stranger Things, the 2 Stranger Things games that they have, Stranger Things 1984 and Stranger Things 3. They have a game Shooting Hoops. They have a game Card Blast and Teeter Up. This is like a very small selection of very simple games that really don't call for much power. So I think this is them trying to get away with it a little bit and build up the foundation before they just acquired Night School Studios. Yeah. And the fact that they acquired them and they don't have a game yet kind of tells me that they're still working out the kinks in the back end to actually run a game like Night School Studios. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with you. These games, I don't know what the last 3 are, and their names don't grab me in any way, being like something to check out. I think Netflix potentially could do some really cool stuff here. I think of the Telltale Walking Dead games and how successful those were, especially as a mobile game, and which are a lot more narratively driven. And to me, that would probably be a better direction to start with, marrying up some of their IP that they've made and kind of doing more narrative driven games that are like in the universe of whatever thing, or side stories of whatever show that or movie that they've come out with. So, well, I mean, we'll have to see how this does, but I mean, I don't have any interest in playing these at the moment.
Totally. Even if this was on iOS, I may have just popped in just to see what it's not even on iOS yet. It's on Android.
Yeah.
So if this was on iOS, I would have just popped in just to check it out. But then I can promise you I would never go back to it unless there was some bigger game on there that will call me in. And my last point on this, what's funny about this is the fact that you bring up Telltale. If Netflix was going to get ahead of this like 2 years earlier, there was a good chance that they could have acquired Telltale, because that would have been the perfect like collab between the two of them, because their games kind of work together. So maybe there's something in regards to that partnership. Maybe in the future we can see, because that makes more sense than every other game I can think about so far, along with Night School Studios, which kind of makes sense as well, just because they're more artsy fartsy and they're simpler games.
Yeah.
And lastly, on the quick bits, we have Elden Ring gameplay trailer. Adam, I want you to start off with this one. I literally just saw this right before we went live, and the trailer came out today, the day that we're recording. So, Adam, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on everything that you saw from the trailer?
I think my general attitude is probably the same as it has been. Just, I don't know, with more intensity. I'm excited with some apprehension. I really want to see how the open world aspect turns out. A lot of the history with From Software and their games has been these very kind of tight knit, interconnecting, overlapping areas. And I am very excited to say that they showed bits of that in the trailer. So they have these throughout the open world. There are these different dungeons, caves, castles that are very much that interwoven, navigating through, unlocking shortcuts that lead back. And that stuff's awesome. The combat looks to continue to be an evolution of what they've done in the past. It is, in my opinion, more of the Dark Souls kind of pacing. It's not fast like Bloodborne or Sekiro, or at least not as fast. And so, but they've evolved it so much. Like all the different magic options look cool. The mounted combat looks like it's really cool. I'm assuming that they've improved on different actual game design elements, such as like collision and stuff like that, which will make it feel smoother and feel like you have better options and don't have to cheese bosses just to beat them. Yeah. So I'm excited. And then they added stuff like crafting, so you're gathering resources and then crafting like ammo and stuff. And so very interested to see how some of these more like RPG elements also work out too.
Dude, so. I by looking at the trailer, I will say one thing. I'm hoping that, well, not hoping. There is some artifacting going on with the resolution of it being shown off on YouTube. I can't give that 100% like the benefit of the doubt though, because I do see some videos on YouTube that look high res and they look good. This just didn't look too high res to me. So I'm not judging it on that. I'm just going to wait till I actually have the game in my hands and then I'll judge it based off of that. Mm-hmm. But the video was not high res enough for me. Yeah. And I think in regards to, there's moments where you can see an overview of like you're standing on the top of this high cliff and you're looking out. There's moments where that looks nice. I think there's other moments where I was like, man, it just doesn't look as nice as I would like it to look.
Yeah.
Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I would. I would say that's always been the case with their games, is compared to what else is being developed at the same time. They're never, their focus is never on the visual fidelity. In my opinion, there's so many other things that they're concerned about, and they choose to devote their resources other places. So like this isn't going to look as good as Demon Souls remake. Like it's not
totally.
But it still looks way better than I think Dark Souls 3 was the last one I played. Like this still looks like a huge improvement over that. Obviously, a huge improvement over Demon Souls or Dark Souls remastered still, like it looks like it's going to, of course, be progressing. It's just not in line with the other games coming out. And that's, I think most fans of the genre are, and those games are cool with that.
I'm hoping that, I think it's safe to say, and I think I don't know if they've noted this before, but the game was obviously in production on a PS4 on last gen hardware, because this game has been in production for a while. So it is being kind of like it's kind of being moved up on a next gen hardware. I don't know if it's necessarily being curated for PS5 and for Xbox Series X and that kind of stuff. I'm hoping though that might be the case. And then when we get it, there's options for performance or fidelity. That'd be cool. I will say it is weird because I can't even say the game is nothing like Bloodborne. The game is nothing like Sekiro. I agree with you. It is a lot like Dark Souls, but with a jump button. And I don't even want to say it's like Sekiro, because Sekiro is way more movie and fast and everything. Fast and everything. is nothing like that. It's just Dark Souls with jumping. That's not a bad thing. And I think what's interesting is that, dude, some of the powers that they showed off in that trailer, like this hyper beam, or there was a moment where you can see like co-op play, which looks way more integrated than it did. Just based off of looking at it, looks way more integrated than all the other previous From Software games. But one of the characters had like this, like, I don't know, this weapon that was like the head of a dragon shooting out fire.
Yeah.
And then another scene where your character had a sword that was like a light beam that went up into the sky.
Yeah.
And then you slash down. I've never seen any of that in any of the From Software games, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I haven't played through all of Dark Souls 2 or 3, and they may have shown stuff like that, but I haven't seen anything that looked that stylized before in From Software. So I'm excited to see what they have in store. They kind of showed a lot, but it kind of shows to me that it looks like they showed a lot, but I'm sure there's a lot more that we're not seeing, and that's what makes me extremely excited.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything else you want to add in regards to Elden Ring before we hop off?
Just super excited. Try not to be too excited because there's always a chance that you'll get disappointed. You know, it is what it is. But yeah, I am excited. So
cool. I am totally there with you as well. Moving on to the topics of the show, guys. We're talking about Xbox, and some PlayStation. So let's start from the top. This comes by way of GamesBeat's Jeff Grubb. The title is Xbox is developing cloud MMO. And here's what they have to say. Finnish studio mainframe. Finnish, thank you. Which is supposed to be like from Finland, I'm guessing, right? Okay. Finnish studio Mainframe is working on a cloud-native, massively multiplayer online adventure for Xbox Studios. That's according to reporter Jez Corden on the Xbox 2 podcast, and it's something that I've separately confirmed through independent sources. Mainframe's game goes by the working title PAX Day, and it's something that people on the Xbox team are excited about for multiple reasons. Cloud native here means that players can access the same game through any device. The studio is also exploring potential gameplay mechanics that can only work in a game that exists primarily on a remote server. One key concept, however, is the mechanics scale in terms of complexity. While anyone can do anything in PAX Day on any device, certain tasks will make more sense depending on where you are playing. So if you're on your phone at work, you can open up the game and quickly do some crafting or resource farming. Then, when you get home to your PC or console, you can take on some of the more complex missions like raids. But key Xbox figures are also excited about PAX Day because of its value in highlighting hurdles with cloud-based development. The hope among those at Microsoft is that PAX Day can create an opportunity to set up best practices for this kind of game, and then other studios can run that same playbook in the future. This last part, I'm not quite. I think this is all Jeff Grubb's. This is him thinking in regards to what he's heard. This has nothing to do with Jez Corden on the Xbox 2 podcast. I just want to make this one clear because this is not confirmed. I think this is just him like assuming and putting pieces together. The last part to this GamesBeat article is, in particular, Xbox is hoping to use those lessons with Hideo Kojima's potential upcoming Xbox game. Kojima and Microsoft are still finalizing a deal, but the Xbox team is lining up resources to aid the renowned Japanese designer. In June, Microsoft hired Kim Swift to oversee cloud games and to work with Kojima on his project. Adam, what is your thoughts on this MMO being developed for Xbox? Everything that I'm hearing seems pretty rad. And it's interesting because of the fact that we just got an MMO, New World by Amazon.
Right.
And that is like the newest big thing. When I see Twitch, some of the big guys are playing that game. It's all over the place. What do you think about this? Xbox is trying to get into the field of MMOs. What are your thoughts?
Well, MMOs are, I feel risky, I guess you'd say. It's always going to be kind of hit or miss whether the player base is there and sticks around, and that honestly writes the story a lot for how well a game does. Obviously, Final Fantasy 14.
Thinking the same thing.
I think they had a lot of draw because it's Final Fantasy, so they were, even though they stumbled at the beginning, they were able to like bring it back. Obviously Anthem was a total flop.
Yeah.
Destiny is awesome and it's great, but they've had multiple stumbles along the way and they've done a good job course correcting. So in terms of Xbox making a cloud MMO, I understand. I think it's a good tool to have in the tool belt, and in terms of like your library of games, especially the
Totally.
fact that, hey, if they bring this out, it's going to be on Game Pass, right? So they probably feel pretty confident about being able to get the buy-in initially for the game because of Game Pass. So that's something that I think they have going for them. So it makes sense. I think Xbox probably feels the need for some MMOs in terms of their stable of games.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about this is what this shows is the fact that we don't see a lot of MMOs come to consoles. We've been
Hmm.
seeing that slowly over the years. I mean, Final Fantasy 14 is on PlayStation. I've played it. I mean, it's you can play on a controller. I'm sure tons of people play on a controller, but I had to connect a keyboard and mouse to it because it felt more
Hmm.
natural that way. Another game is Black Desert. Black Desert is on every single console. It's on Xbox. It's on PlayStation. That's a massive MMO.
Yeah.
Elder Scrolls as well. So these are starting to become more and more. And I think what this is telling me is the fact that one, Xbox really is in a weird position and a good position because they have Game Pass for not only consoles, but also for cloud and also for PC.
Hmm.
So they're setting themselves up in a way where they're not really caring much about the consoles. They care more about the software, And I think that's where they need to put their brain
Hmm.
because they need to win people over with games. And so I totally agree with you. The MMO sounds cool. I love the sound of it scaling, like the way that will work if the cloud works perfectly. But it's interesting because I wonder what does that look like in regards to the scaling? Like, would the game be because I feel like and I mean we'll talk about it later, but I was
Hmm.
playing Moonglow Bay on Cloud X Cloud and also on my console. But the thing is, it doesn't de-res itself on xCloud. It's just playing it what it's supposed to look like on your phone. And if for some reason your internet's not strong enough to boost that kind of signal and that kind of fidelity, it's just going to stutter. And so I wonder if this is like their first step into being like, okay, we need to make xCloud smart enough to read and to be able to adjust sliders on a game to know, okay, this is going through xCloud. Let's start adjusting the sliders of resolution in regards to depth of field, in regards to
Hmm.
shaders, that kind of stuff to make it run better, or maybe run well enough on your phone to do certain tasks. Is that what you think the route that they're going on?
I mean, it could be when they talked about like doing certain tasks on their phone. The context I got more of was not from a being strapped for power or internet, which I mean you could be if you're on like, some places are spotty, but just the fact of like I only have 15-minute break and I don't really have time to do some of the more, I guess, mainline content. And so it's like, but
True.
I can grind out some stuff, resource catches, stuff like that. And so it'd be interesting to see how they if they're developing with that goal in mind, it it makes me really interested to see what that actually looks like in the game. Because it's like,
Totally.
okay, if you're on your console or on your PC, is that a task that you will never have to do at that point? Or it's like, if you do have to do it, it's very dumbed down, or it looks
Right.
completely different than when you do it on your phone. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different options they could go with here in terms of that goes. But I don't know. This scaling stuff is cool. Obviously, if they're the more that they run in cloud, and I don't know if they talk about it here or other places, but kind of deploying like machine learning and AI to kind of do a lot of cool things in terms of tailoring the game to like the individual player a little bit more. I think was it Ubisoft that's kind of like patented some of that stuff before in terms of like
Yes.
the scaling difficulties and stuff like that. So I
Totally.
mean,
Yeah,
there's
they did.
options that they could
Yeah.
explore with the whole cloud thing. And the other thing too, since I think that, I don't machine games or sorry, mainframe is not an Xbox owned studio. They're just doing it like
Correct.
second party, basically
Correct.
agreement or something like that. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because, they talk about laying the groundwork and like the blueprint for stuff going forward. In terms of cloud development, they can very easily kind of package up some like programs and stuff like that in terms of like, hey, if you want to add this kind of difficulty scaling AI to your, game, if you're like working through like the Azure um, platform as a service environment, it's like another game developer could just quickly buy that module and start running with it and like plug it into what they're
Totally.
working with and of course
Totally.
and do that. But I mean that's one of the big advantages of like the cloud platforms is being able to share stuff like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the last bit that I want to hit on in regards to this, I mean, Jeff Grubb, I don't know if he made the last part in regards to Kojima. I kind of take it that was kind of the clickbait for the article to kind of get people into it. Cause I honestly, me personally, I have no idea what Kojima would be working on that is calling for cloud. Like
Mm-hmm.
Kojima is just not that kind of guy that he's like, oh, I need to make a game that's just for cloud gaming. He's never been that kind of person. He has been the kind of guy where like when PT was being talked about, he was the kind of guy that was like, maybe the game can link up to your Twitter or your phone number or stuff like that, and it will send things to you. Like he has messed with stuff like that. But in regards to making a game regarding cloud, I cannot understand what is it that Kojima wants to do that needs a strong cloud presence. And Xbox is like, all right, well, let's start working on the foundation to convince Kojima to do that with us. Because I know he's doing something with PlayStation. There's like, and I'm saying I know because, and not that I know, there's no sources out there. Guys, the Video Game Awards are literally not even 5 weeks away. I swear to God, there's going to be a trailer for what Kojima's working on next there. I swear to God. And it's with PlayStation. But I don't know. That last part, I'm just kind of like, I don't know what is cloud, Kojima, and Xbox, all that means. It might make sense in the future, but right now, I just really don't understand any of that. If I was Xbox, I'd be like, just get a game on the console first before we start talking about anything weird with cloud. So that's all I got to say about that. Sticking with Xbox, let's move on to Xbox and Sega. We got this story that came out, and it's interesting. There's been a lot of talk about it, and some people making it seem as if this is not really that big of a deal. Some of them are kind of like, this is maybe a lot bigger than we think it is. This comes by way of IGN's Matt Purslow. Xbox and Sega announced a, quote, strategic alliance. And this is what the article says. Sega and Microsoft announced that they have agreed to a, quote, strategic alliance, end quote, that will see Sega produce games built on Microsoft's Azure cloud platform. Announced in a press release, Sega explained that the agreement is part of the company's, quote, super game, end quote, initiative, which aims to create, quote, new and innovative, end quote, games with a focus on global online communities. And then this is a Sega statement. They say, this proposed alliance represents Sega looking ahead and by working with Microsoft to anticipate such trends as they accelerate further in future. The goal is to optimize development processes and continue to bring high quality experiences to players using Azure cloud technologies, end quote. And then Azure, just to clarify for some people who do not know, Azure is Microsoft's cloud computing service. It should be noted that Azure offers a variety of software, platform, and infrastructure services. And so Sega's use of Azure does not necessarily point to Sega's working on games played in the cloud or a cloud gaming service. The cloud is being used for many aspects of game development, including AI. And so Sega and Microsoft's partnership has many potential outcomes. And just to end note before we even go deeper into what I put, PlayStation has a deal with Microsoft to utilize Azure. So if to some you can look at it as that doesn't mean PlayStation's making games for the cloud. No, they're just using the service at face value. Now, Adam, before we continue on, with this story as a whole, what does this look like to you? Does this look like Sega and Xbox, this utilizing Azure is, and the front it can look like, hey, we're just utilizing the service, but do you think there's a lot more to it?
No, I know
Really?
it's not. I don't know. I don't think there's anything super deep to it. I don't think this means there's not something else going on. I just don't think it's connected necessarily or that they're strictly tied together, right? I think Sega is probably exploring, they're wanting to explore other options or explore options in terms of how they develop games. And part of that might be selling. Part of that is this whole thing with looking to utilize Azure services that Microsoft provides. But I think in terms of this story, I think you can separate out that this doesn't have to do with anything like in terms of Xbox and Sega together. This is just like Sega and Microsoft as a tech company having the relationship together. So there's as they say, because you're using Azure stuff, that doesn't mean you're just making like a game that runs on the cloud. In terms of just like game development or software development in general, there's so much about the software development lifecycle that's improved and made easy and made faster just by using Azure services to deploy code, to share code, to kind of push code through like the different pipelines of kind of like building it and merging it together with other people's code. And even from that standpoint, if that's just something Sega hasn't done before, and they're going to start doing it, that's cool for them. But then, like I said, there's different kind of, I guess, cloud or services or cloud software that you can kind of like buy that other people have done, and it's a lot easier to implement. There's the aspect of you could set up, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little technical here, but like you could set up virtual machines, right, in a data center. So basically you could say, I want to, I have this build of the game. I'm going to quickly deploy it out to this virtual machine I've set up that is spec'd out to be Xbox Series X hardware, right? And so you're not having to mess around with dev kits. You can like play around with a lot of different hardware configurations very easily. So if you're trying to develop your game for a lot of different platforms, like that really helps out a lot. So there's just a lot of things in, what it says about developing games that's made easier or kind of unlocks like, I don't know, better features, kind of helps you make a better game just by using their services. So, and
totally.
Sony uses their services. Actually, Sony uses, I think they still use Azure, but then some of Sony uses AWS, Amazon's web stuff. So it's like, totally. People shop around, they do a little bit here and there. I don't think this strictly means that something is happening with Sega and Xbox, but like it could be, but I don't think it's.
Yeah. I would have to, I totally agree with everything that you said. I think there is a little bit more to this though as well. I think when we saw the beginning of Game Pass start flourishing and when it was released, we saw a slew of Sega games come to the service. One of those being the Yakuza series. And with Sega even coming out around that time saying, this is a whole brand new like revival of Yakuza that we haven't seen in a very long time. And I think what very well could be going on, everything that you said, true. I think on top of that, I feel like Xbox needs that foot into the Japanese culture. They need to get in. They're not doing well. And I know there was numbers that were released that Xbox didn't even hit like barely hit the 100,000 in regards to sales in Japan. Like they're not really Japan like loved. Like Japan is all about Nintendo, PlayStation. That's it, And so, and handhelds as well. Hence the reason why Switch is blowing up. I think what's going on here and what is a smart move is the fact that if they kind of fully integrate Sega, a big Japanese company, into the cloud space, give them access to Azure, allow them to mess around with it and really get good at it, allowing for all Sega games to be played maybe in the future via like the cloud, allowing for the Japanese culture who loves handhelds to play Sega games on their phone. I think that's a boost. Okay. On top of all of that.
Yeah.
On top of all that, I think when PlayStation and Microsoft joined in regards to the deal regarding Azure, we didn't see anyone from PlayStation come out and say anything.
Yeah.
My thing right here is we have Sarah Bond. She is a CVP, and her job at Microsoft is not Microsoft necessarily. It is Xbox. She's the one that curates all the games regarding Game Pass and bringing games onto Game Pass. And she had a quote, and this is what she says. Sega has played such an iconic role in the gaming industry and has been a tremendous partner over the years. We look forward to working together as they explore new ways to create unique gaming experiences for the future using Microsoft Cloud technologies. Together, we will reimagine how games get built, hosted, and operated with the goal of adding more value to players and Sega alike. I feel like the value part easily from her standpoint, as someone who does Game Pass, there's a good chance that, and again, these are not facts. This is just me grabbing by what she says. Value to the Game Pass service as a whole. And she also tweeted out the same day, my love for Sega and their games dates back to playing on my Dreamcast. It's been a delight to lead our partnership with Sega, and I'm thrilled to take it to the next level, creating novel gaming experiences using the power of Azure. Can't wait to share more in the future. I think if you're saying that Sega is just utilizing Azure, and Sega literally says everything in the statement, what does the next level even mean then if they're just making games utilizing Azure? I think there's more to this partnership. I'm hoping that this means that there's a close partnership between Xbox and Sega because I think they need it. Like PlayStation, they're from Japan. They have all the connections that they need. Xbox needs Japan. They need Sega. So I think this is a good partnership for them.
Do you think Microsoft will try to acquire Sega or has been trying to acquire Sega? For that matter, did Microsoft try to acquire Konami? You know?
Totally. I think honestly, what's going on here is I wouldn't deny that Phil Spencer must have had a conversation with the people at Sega. Like that's had to have happened because of the fact that, I mean, there's stories from years ago when Microsoft wanted to go buy Nintendo and they just laughed at them like, what are you talking about? And so there had to have been a conversation going on. If anything, I think this is a strategic move for Microsoft and Xbox to be like, hey, let's just butter up this relationship a bit. Let's just really, really let's become buddies. And then it gets to a point where we're like, hey, here's a sum of money. Let's acquire y'all. You remember what we did with Yakuza? You remember what we did in regards to our cloud game stuff? Come on. This makes sense, right? I think that's what they're doing. And I think it's very smart, It's very smart. So, Adam, do you have anything else before we move on from this story?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm excited to see what they do. Like maybe we'll get, I don't know, some good Sonic games.
Yeah, no, totally, dude. And I know that they even talked about in regards to like super games or whatever it was called. And it's their strategy to make some games that are big nationwide with low cost or big cost games with low expanse or whatever. So they have a whole strategy and hopefully they can deliver on that and we can see more very soon. Next up, another Xbox related story. This comes by way of the Halo Infinite campaign trailer. We finally got some more, another look at the reveal trailer of Halo Infinite. This is no story or anything like that. This is just straight from the trailer that got released. It was released very last minute by listening to some other people within the games industry and noticing this was announced that this was going to happen Sunday night going into Monday. And a lot of people who are really with the thumb on the button regarding Xbox stuff, everyone was like, this is weird. Why would they do this? And so the trailer came out and we got to see some stuff. And I have some thoughts regarding this. So regarding the trailer, we get to see an overview map showing off objectives that are going on within this new open world game of Halo Infinite. Master Chief has an upgrade system, which is really weird to look at. You can spawn vehicles from particular locations. They literally, it's almost, I'm trying to think of, it's almost like, think of like you're respawning somebody from Apex Legends. Like a ship will come down and then it'll just drop the vehicle right in front of you.
Okay.
There's open world strongholds to be taken down. So you will find encampments that you can take over and then claim as your own. And then we get to see some very light story details, very, very light. There's barely anything really being shown. I think that's probably for the good. Not to say that the story's not good, but you want to keep your fans in the dark. You don't want to give them everything right now because you really got to knock it out with this one. And then some new enemies that we got to see were the Skimmers. They're like a jetpack flying enemy. We got to see a Spartan killer called Jega Rodome. And then Craig, the biggest meme that came out from last year, has had a true glow up. Oh my God. Like when you see that image from before, I don't understand who saw that and they're like, this is okay. But thank God they turned that around. Like I know for the fact the moment that happened, Phil Spencer was like, get 3 guys on that pronto, fix that up. Mm-hmm. And then Lastly, oh, I'm gonna erase this part. At the moment I said the trailer didn't even hit 1 million views, but I was looking on the Xbox, or not Xbox. I was looking on the Microsoft YouTube channel. On the Xbox channel, it was at like 2 million views. So
Oh, okay.
I thought that was an interesting point to make, just because of the fact that on other things, like on PlayStation day one, they show something 1 million views within a couple hours. But
Yeah.
I was wrong. Just a different kind of thing. But starting off, I do want to say this trailer makes it feel like this is Halo meets Far Cry. And look, I'll just let it be known. I've not played all the Halo games. I've played like half of Halo 1. I've played all of Halo Reach, which is weird. I know I'm all over the place. And very little and just I played multiplayer Halo from
Mhm.
all the games because my cousins were the ones who had them. So I would just jump in and play multiplayer with them. That's my small limited knowledge that I have about Halo. So, but I do know that Halo is not like Far Cry. It is very linear and just go to this point, to this point, to this point, to just keep moving on the story. This looks very different. I will say I'm excited. It's kind of weird that you can upgrade Master Chief and you take over strongholds. It's just very Far Cry. It's different, but
Mhm.
I guess to me, it doesn't bother me because I don't have this strong affinity to the past. And I'm like, hey, this is just a new game. I'll jump in. I have Game Pass, so why not? Might as well jump in. But Adam, I know you have much more of a background with Halo than I do, and I think. Anyways, let me
Maybe.
know what did you think of let me know what you think of the trailer.
I don't know. I didn't. I watched most of it. I wasn't. Not that I wasn't being super analytical or critical when I was watching it. I think I told you I was like, yeah, it looks like more Halo. Hopefully it's really good. I was much more excited because when I saw the multiplayer trailer, like with the story, it's kind of hard to know. Like I don't know, is the story going to be good? Who knows?
Totally.
You have to actually play the
Yeah.
game to find out. Obviously, we've known that they're kind of going of a more open world style campaign. It's not like, oh, you just load up the next mission, then you play the mission, and you're confined to that mission until you finish that mission.
Right.
Right. So it's going away with that from that, which I think is great. Obviously, I think other games have transitioned that way, or games that kind of still have a linear story but let you have the freedom work well. Obviously, I think of God of War 2018, like for the most part, that story wise, it's pretty linear, but there is a lot of exploration and kind of lets you like switch over to different stuff as you're going along. Obviously, most of the open world games function that way. And so the fact that they're operating on a more open world like style level, it could be really good.
Yeah.
It could
Yeah.
not be fun. I don't know. It
Yeah.
we just don't know. We don't know. I think the people that would probably have a better sense of it are the people who have played all of the games and, really tracked that stuff very well. I've probably played through the campaign of 1 and 2 at some point before, and, I've played some multiplayer, but I haven't done a ton. Oh, and I played most of Halo 5 campaign too, but I haven't done a ton
Oh,
outside of that.
okay. Cool, cool, cool. So those who are watching that are new to this channel, obviously you can tell we're not the biggest Halo fans. Or like we don't have that much of a lineage with Halo,
Experience.
but
Yeah.
experience, thank you. But I am overall excited. I'm excited for multiplayer, honestly, more so than
Mhm.
within the campaign, just because of the fact that the multiplayer, based off of what everyone's been saying regarding these playtests, it's very promising. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for multiplayer. Look, it's on Game Pass, and that's the benefit of Game Pass is like it's there. Why not? Especially the fact like right now, Forza Horizon 5 is coming out soon, and I got reminded of that, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna buy that because I'm just and then I thought, oh, it's on
It's
Game
on Game
Pass.
Pass.
Well, perfect, dude. Like it's like getting tens. Like that's
Yeah,
perfect for
yeah, it
me.
has
So
been. Yeah.
so I'm excited, and I'm excited for Halo. We'll see what comes of it in the future. So just stick here and see what we have to say in regards to Halo when it comes out. Moving on to our last story of the show, guys. We got the PlayStation State of Play, and this is all coming from the PlayStation blog. Adam, before we go in, I had no expectations. I had zero
Yeah.
expectations regarding this show. Did you?
Yeah. I had zero
Okay,
expectations regarding the show.
go. I think the fact that the last show that we got was more of a deeper dive, regarding games and stuff like that. I think PlayStation has truly made a point that anything that says state of play on it, do not go in with that much expectations. And I think that's good because when they did the PlayStation, what was it called? The Showcase, PlayStation Showcase?
Yeah.
That was completely different than state of play.
Yeah.
And I think that's smart of them. And I'm glad because when the state of play was announced, I didn't even see it right away. I waited till I got home and then I checked it out. So
Yeah.
as someone who's I'm a big PlayStation fan, this is a lot. So they showed a couple of games. I'm not going to go through all the descriptions on them, but I will say this is what they showed in this order. They showed Deathverse Let It Die, We Are OFK, Bug Snacks, the IO Big Snacks DLC, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, Death's Door, Kart Rider Drift, King of Fighters 15, First Class Trouble, Star Ocean, The Divine Force, and lastly, Little Devil Inside. Adam, I don't want to talk about all these games because honestly, not all of them spoke to me. I'm sure not all of them spoke to you. I want to start with you, Dub. Which ones did speak to you that from the state of play?
The main one, maybe the only one, is Death's Door.
Really?
Since I since I first saw the announcement trailer or the first, I think it was during was it Microsoft Showcase during E3?
E3?
I think it was Microsoft's. I was like, oh my gosh, that game looks awesome. This is such an Adam game. I'm totally going to get it right away. And I'm like, oh, it's only coming to Xbox. I mean, I have my Xbox One, but I don't play it. And I'd really love this on Switch because it's portable or on PlayStation for the trophies. I'm like, I don't know how long I can wait. Surely it's a launch exclusive, but just like for limited, and it was only like a 3-month exclusive. I'm like, yes, right? That is such a short exclusivity window. I'm like, I'm so glad. But now I have to make the decision of to get it on Switch or on PlayStation because that's the kind of game I'd love to have on the Switch and be portable. So we'll see. I did think We Are OFK looks really cool. I don't play a lot of those types of games, but I appreciate them from afar, and I think that game looks really cool. So
in regards to the state of play as a whole, I agree with you. Death's Door is interesting. I'm not going to speak much on it because I have an Xbox. I was actually thinking about getting it for Xbox. The fact that it's coming to PlayStation means, if anything, if I had to choose between the two, I'm choosing PlayStation. But now I'm still struggling with the fact, do I want to wait for the Switch? Just because it just makes sense for the Switch, Regarding We Are OFK, I dug this trailer. I think it was very fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
And what was up?
Just you keep going. You get to say it. You get to say it. That's so fun.
I will say this is what the description is. It says indie pop band OFK teams up with co-designer of Hyperlight Drifter for a new 5-episode music biopic series. What I like about this is the fact that one, it's very indie, super indie. I think just right off the bat, the voice acting was awesome. It felt so natural. And then on top of all that, it's almost like this is like a teen drama kind of show. And they're releasing an album the same day that this drops alongside this. So it just feels it feels cool in the fact that you're getting it in different mediums, And so
it's a real band. Music. They're really dropping an album, but they've also developed a video game.
And you will be playing through moments that are like music videos in the game. So that is honestly, out of all of them, I agree with you. I think We Are OFK though was like my hypest thing.
It just started out so great. It had so much humor. The guy's like in the VO booth and he's like, war sucks. And I'm just like, that's the Fallout reference. That's so cool. And then, it had me hooked from that point. But yeah.
I think the last one that totally had me engrossed, I'm still not sure yet, is Little Devil Inside. We saw this last year at the announcement for the PlayStation 5. The description is, get an extended look at this Victorian-like era action adventure, showcasing gameplay and its intriguing miniature-like world map. I will say, everyone go check this out if you have the chance. The only reason why is because the gameplay looks so rad. I love the art style. I don't like the whole world map. And like, there's like 3 stages of playing it. there is the world map, which is like the up top view, and it looks like a tilt shift, almost like the Link's what's that Link game? Link's Awakening that was remastered for the Switch. It
Yeah.
looks almost like that from the top down view for the world map. And then there's a third level that zooms in, and it's like little miniature toys that move around. And then you zoom in one more time, and then that's where you actually get like the high res, like looking gameplay. That part looks cool. Everything else, though, I'm kind of like, I'm not sure about this. I don't know how all this is going to flow together, but we'll have to wait and see till that
Yeah.
comes out. So,
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
that's all that I had to say in regards to that. Adam, you have anything else in regards to state of play?
I do. I
What's up?
think we really should ask. There was something that we didn't know was missing from the showcase, but after today, I'm like, why wasn't this game at the showcase?
What's
Why
that?
wasn't Elden Ring there? Like, is
Oh, that
FromSoft just like big enough where they're like, we're going to do our own thing? And I'm just like, surely if PlayStation knew that they almost had that trailer ready, surely Sony should have tried to get that included in their state of play. Like, I don't know if that means that it's just like From Software is not favoring any uh publisher more than another, or I guess platform more than another. Are they just, like I said, big enough and have their own dedicated fan base where they know that they're going to get their stuff looked at? But I'm just like, in
totally.
hindsight, I'm like, these things were a week apart. Why didn't Sony get this in here somehow? I don't
I
know.
will say that I think if you put Elden Ring, like the gameplay reveal trailer, in this showcase, it would stand out amongst all of them.
Yeah.
And just by looking at it, all of these are not all of them are indies, because King of Fighters is definitely not an indie. Star Ocean is not an indie, but I think it would have stood out way too much. And I think
Fair.
if PlayStation would have done that, I think they would think to themselves, okay, if we do this, I'm pretty sure from every state of play, they might expect something like Elden Ring to show up. So to an extent,
Yeah.
I actually appreciate the fact that if that was on the table, I appreciate the fact that they didn't allow that, because then it continues to
Sure.
let me know that every state of play will not be like that.
Okay.
So, which is a smart
Expectation
move.
setting. Yeah. That's what
Yeah,
Nintendo's been
yeah.
doing, with being, and I think that's what Sony's been doing too. So makes sense.
Totally. Adam, going in and finishing off the rest of the show, let's talk about what games have we been playing. And I want to start with you. What have
All
you been
right.
playing, Adam?
So I've still been playing Horizon Zero Dawn. That game continues to be really great. While, as I've mentioned before, I think there's some problems that hold the game back
Yeah.
a little bit, but hopefully are stuff that can get buffed out for the sequel. What I've started and basically 100%ed since our last podcast was SteamWorld Dig
Crazy.
2. Yeah, which is a phenomenal game. I've known that people have considered it a phenomenal game for a long time. Obviously, the entire time the Switch has been around, that game has been, had praises sung from like a lot of the people I look up to in the industry and kind of who cover games. And so I've known that's a game I should try. It's, I guess we would say, I hate using the word, but it is a Metroidvania, right? So it is kind of a lot of exploration based. I think it's a little bit more linear than some other Metroidvanias are. So I think it's actually
Totally.
more approachable in terms of games in the genre. And I would almost say this is like as close to perfect a game can get.
Wow.
Obviously,
Okay.
it's not as huge of scope of game as something like God of War. So I think, when you
Yeah.
kind of have a smaller bite size, chunk of game, it's easier to kind of really polish and make it do the thing it's supposed to do. Obviously, I think games like Gree are kind of in that category too. The shorter experiences that can kind of really be in and out. This game is longer than that, but it's so good. It's got a lot of great exploration. I don't know. I guess for people who've never heard of this game before, you're this little robot and it's very cute art style, and you're, able to basically dig pathways into the ground to get to different areas that you're looking for. So there's like, in that sense, it's kind of like Minecraft where you're digging down. There's some pockets of stuff that's already opened up. You find different things that are down there. You collect resources, which then you have to take back up to the surface to sell. And then you use that to upgrade your equipment and stuff like that. And there's a lot of collectibles that you use to kind of like almost like the Hollow Knight system in terms of like equipping and re-equipping. So you like move basically your resources for your kind of modifications around, so you can constantly swap out what you're using, which is a lot of fun to do.
Okay.
By the end of the game, if you have all the modifications, you've basically broken the game, and that was so fun because you start out moving fairly slow and it is a bit of a grind in terms of like I feel like I am having to dig through the earth to get where I'm going, but then it's like later on you just dig so fast and you have like jetpacks and like you're exploding a bunch of stuff and you're just going so fast and it's
Nice,
wonderful.
nice.
So it was an amazing game. If you, I guess I assume it's on other platforms, but if you have a Switch, you should play it. It
Totally.
probably get really cheap and it's a fun game. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard amazing things about SteamWorld Dig too. I do want to know, Adam, how would you compare it to Hollow Knight? Which one is better to you?
They're so different. They're so
Okay,
different.
really?
Hollow Knight is so much more about Hollow Knight has so much of like Dark Souls in it to me
Totally.
that it's a completely different game. SteamWorld
Okay.
Dig 2 has very few boss battles and it's not about the bosses in any means. And you're carving out your own pathways through the ground. So that's a very unique element to it. But Hollow Knight is a lot more like traditional Metroidvanias, and it is a lot of interconnecting areas, and it is a lot less linear than SteamWorld Dig 2 is. So they're very, very different. I
Okay.
will say they're very similar in the fact that they have a very defined art style that's just not pixel art, which is a lot of
Mm,
Metroidvanias can fall into that category, especially like from the indie
totally.
standpoint. But um, obviously, Hollow Knight is this beautiful hand drawn looking kind of art
Oh yeah.
style, and SteamWorld. I don't know how I would describe it. It's not
Is
really
it like
quite
flash
easy to show.
animation?
I don't know. Maybe that's a good way to say it. It's, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but it's very cool. If
Okay.
you just look up SteamWorld Dig 2, I haven't played the first one. I think everyone considers the second one to be better than the first one, and in no aspect do you need to know the story, I think, of the first one. It kind of fills in the gaps here and there enough for you to
Cool.
get by. So,
Cool. Cool. I see that you were playing Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time on Switch. I hope you're playing on Switch because there was a sale on it. Because Adam, that game is on the PlayStation 5 with an upgrade for PlayStation 5.
yeah, I know it is, but that's the kind of game I don't want to like sit on the couch and like play on the TV like when I can play it
It's
portably.
understandable. Yeah.
And so it's like if it's a game I know I really just prefer to only play portably, I will still get on Switch because, Switch screen is bigger than my phone screen with a backbone, and then there's not the internet
Yeah.
slowdown here and there and
Yeah.
like connection problems. So in fact, even playing SteamWorld Dig 2 this past 2 weeks, I was like, I love playing games on my Switch. This is great. I want to switch to OLED. Let's go, baby. And yeah, so
Blows me away that you want that.
I will say that I know that I should expect this, but I will say that the Switch version of Crash 4 is a little disappointing in terms
Oh,
of
really?
it's just like obviously you're not going to get as good of a frame rate or as good of a resolution as PlayStation, but I didn't think
Totally.
it would be so noticeable. I guess I
Oh.
had some just expectations after playing like Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy on Switch and
Uh-huh.
playing Spyro Reignited Trilogy on Switch. It was kind of like, I don't know, I kind of forgot that I'm like, oh yeah, those were, remaster remakes, so it's like it's much
Yeah.
more likely that they're kind of going to be closer to the Switch's like performance starting point. and
Totally.
Crash 4 is just not there. It's the drop in resolution is very noticeable. The frame
Mm.
rate is like 30, FPS, and I can handle that. But honestly, the resolution is the thing that's the bigger issue for me.
You were even able to tell like the resolution drop through handheld?
Oh yeah, actually,
Wow.
the resolution is worse on handheld than it is
Oh,
on the dock because you get a little bit of performance boost
yeah.
with the dock. So
Yeah. Wow. That's sad. That's a little sad. The
yeah,
game is I
yeah,
liked Crash Bandicoot 4. But I mean, hey, I agree with you though that Crash Bandicoot is the kind of game that does belong on a handheld.
yeah.
You don't really need you don't need to play that game on 4K 60 frames per second on the PlayStation
No,
5. You don't need to do
no,
that.
no.
So,
I will say going back a little bit, um, I will probably wait until there are some reviews out for Death's Door on Switch, and I really want to
mm,
make sure. Like, I would prefer to play it on Switch, but if the performance is too bad compared to PlayStation 5, I'll just
true.
get on PlayStation. So
True. True, 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 true. For me, I have completed Death Stranding. Finally. I am It was a long couple of weeks as I was playing Death Stranding. I was so enthralled with the game. And at the point of when I was like, this is the end. I know I'm close to the end of this game.
mhm.
I finished the game at 4 o'clock in the morning. Vanessa texted me like at 2. She was like, are you almost done? I was like, the the credits are rolling. I'm almost done. I should know. It's Hideo Kojima. It's never done when the credits roll, man. He has 2
Oh,
credit rolls in the game, and I got done at 4 o'clock in the morning. But with all that being said, I I'm so blown away by this game, man. It is one of those games that is I'm not saying that it's perfect. It's not a perfect game whatsoever. The story could be a little confusing at times. I will say for me personally with my experience, as you went on with the story, I completely understood a lot of the stuff that was really, really confusing at the beginning. And even maybe halfway through the game at times as well. Things become more explained, things become more realized, and things like that. I think you get to see closer to the end of the game that Hideo Kojima is really just having fun with it at times. And I, man, it's just one of those things where with just finishing Red Dead Redemption 2, with that being such a monumental game for me because it was so good. This game sits at that to that point for me as well
mhm.
because I Kojima did such a great job marrying both gameplay and music together. Like
Yeah,
they go hand in hand.
yeah.
In the moments where you are so frustrated and you were literally trying to get through like the mud of trying to get away from BTs and survive, and then you come to this clearing and the clouds part and you just see a walkway and you're like, that's where I need to go. And you start walking, and then Low Roar starts playing, and I'm like, every single time I get goosebumps. I literally get emotional because I'm like, you cannot do this in any form of medium other than video games. Like Hideo Kojima knows I'm making a video game. I'm going to use this platform to the best of my ability with everything that I got.
Mhm.
And you can, in movies, play scenes out and play music in the background and get emotional. I totally got that. But never once in a video game do you have a moment to where you see an open valley that looks so beautiful and you start walking down and you're just Sam just walking down with all these packages and this music plays, the camera pans out, and you're just overwhelmed by this scene. And they really knocked it out of the park, man. And especially when, I was done and I literally was reflecting on the game for a couple days. And on top of all that, I got the Hideo Kojima book that
Yeah,
just came out, The Creative Gene. So I've been
yeah.
reading that and just I've been so engulfed in everything Hideo Kojima. And I just been thinking to myself, like, man, I remember when in 2015, the whole thing with Konami went down in the fall when they had that last like that quick video that went up with Andrew House uh alongside of Kojima announcing that they're partnering, and then from the lead up from that point on to 2016 E3, Kojima taking pictures going all over the world to all these different studios. I'm with Neil Druckmann. I'm with Corey Barlog. I'm with Herman Hulse. Like, he's like, I'm looking for the next technology. I'm looking for the next engine for my game. And then when 2016 hit and that E3, I say, go back and watch 2016 to E3. It's so good. And you see Hideo Kojima walking down the stage and he's like, I'm back. The crowd goes crazy and I have something to show you. And it's a scene from Death Stranding and everyone's going crazy. And just the history of the fact that this game got done so quickly. And I think what shows is not everyone has the ability that, like, I'm pretty sure Sony went up to him and say, hey, let's do this partnership. Let's get this game out within 3 years. Can we do that? 3 years or 3 to 4 years. And he starts a year later. He finally gets the engine in 2016. It starts from that point, gets the game done in 3 years. In 3 years, he gets the game done. And I think this game shows how much of a master of the craft that Hideo Kojima was like, these are my limitations. This is the kind of story I could come up with that can fit those limitations. Boom, let's get right on it. And no one would ever think, hey, let's make a game about you being a delivery guy delivering packages. Like, who would think that's fun? And I know for some, it's going to be boring. I've spoken to a lot of people who I keep saying, hey, you got to play this game. And all of them are like, it was boring. And I'm like, I get that. But to the few that do love it and to the few that are like, this is art and you crafted this story and you got these great actors to be behind you. And I know that Norman Reedus' character is kind of like very one note all the entire time. And then it comes to a moment where 3/4 into the game, something's revealed and you're like, that explains so much why your character's like this, you know? And it's so good. So without me continuing to just gush over Death Stranding as a whole, I gotta say Death Stranding, so great. I mean, we're in 2021. It's my game of the year right now. And it was a game of the year. It was on nominations in 2019.
Yeah.
It was for 2019. So I love the game. The game is really, really cool. And I'm so happy that I finally got to beat it, play it. And the moment I was done, and this is my end for Death Stranding, the moment I was done, I kept thinking about the game. I was like, I just want to keep going and making more trips and more deliveries. But I literally told myself, like, no, this is the moment where you delete the game and don't play it because you want to leave the game knowing that I wanted to play more and this is how I'm leaving it off. And that's it. So I deleted it. I won't ever play it again, probably, because that's just how I am. I've tried playing The Last of Us 1 multiple times. I can't just because of the fact that I don't want to oversaturate it. So loved it. Loved Death Stranding. It was such a good game. So there's that. And to finish out the rest of what I've been playing, I was playing some Moonglow Bay. Is an indie game on the Xbox Series X. It's on Game Pass PC, and Game Pass console, as well as cloud. And Moonglow Bay is literally just a simple fishing game that you just go fish, create your own little street food cart, sell food, cook the food. Dude, it is so fun. And
nice.
I love it. It's so literally from going from Death Stranding to Moonglow Bay are night and day. But it's one of those things where it almost reminds me of oh my goodness, it starts with an S, Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Stardew Valley, which is all about farming, but this is just fishing and cooking. And I didn't know how deep it would go. I personally, in real life, I enjoy fishing. I like fishing. And I love the fact that you choose the lures, you choose your bait, and you only have 3 lures, 3 baits that you can choose from. And then you can even drop like baskets to catch lobsters. And then when you want to cook, you go into your kitchen and then you have to choose the recipe that you want to make, go to the fridge, get your ingredients, wash them, do these button prompts, chop them up, do these button prompts, fry them or boil them or do whatever. It's simple. It's so simple, but just relaxing. So I've really been enjoying Moonglow Bay.
Good.
If anyone has the ability to play it, it's on Game Pass. Check it out. I think it's worth checking it out to see. Maybe it's the kind of game that I know I won't play every single day, but I'll go back to whenever I'm like, I just want to chill for a second, you know?
Yeah.
So I love that game. Next, I kind of want to talk about Austria Ascending real quick. And the reason why is because I actually didn't play this game. And I wanted to kind of discuss this real fast because I
didn't play it? Okay.
I did it. And here's where I'm going with this, okay? It was when I was done with Death Stranding, I was like, hey, I got this Xbox, I gotta play some games on it. So I downloaded Moonglow Bay, downloaded Scarlet Nexus, and Austria Ascending. So I just downloaded Austria Ascending because it looked cool based off of the front cover. Downloaded it. The moment I launched the game, I noticed it was that flash animation style to where like you get an artist to draw the character, and then you just stretch the character to move like as if they're
Oh,
moving. And
okay.
so it doesn't feel like they drew every animation. They just through the computer stretched the movements to make them look like they're moving. I saw that and I heard a little bit of the acting in it, and then I deleted it. And after I did that, I'm not kidding. I literally sat on my chair for a second. I was like, man, that kind of sucks. Because if I made that game, I would hate to know that, you know?
Yeah.
And in my mind, I thought to myself, you know what? I can't do that. And I've never been a fan of flash animation. Like when you watch like early PBS cartoons and they were all hand drawn, and then somewhere in the mid 2000s, everything switched to flash animation because it was much cheaper and quicker to make more episodes of those shows. You know, it was something of that moment where it just looked low cost. But I will say, when I was looking at the game, the artwork is beautiful. Like I can't deny that. The artwork is beautiful.
Hmm.
The voice acting, there was voice acting for everything. Like it wasn't just speech bubbles and then you just read it. There's the voice acting for every piece of speech bubble. And so I told myself, and I'm not gonna play it right away right now, but I told myself, look, do not judge a game that way. For all I know, I can jump in and it could be my game of the year. So I just wanted to bring it up and just kind of confess, like that's what I did. But I'm going to go back and play it to make sure that I actually give it the time of day to judge it the right way. And then if I don't like it within like the first hour or two, then I will move on from then. So
Okay.
thought I'd just let that be known. And then
Gotcha.
lastly is Scarlet Nexus. And all I will say is this is an anime game as much as an anime game can be. And
Yeah.
I love it. This is what I needed. It is I hate the fact that I cannot have Japanese voice acting on while I'm playing a game, because if I'm so busy playing, I can't play, focus, and read subtitles at the
Yeah.
same time. It's so difficult. And I don't have a problem with that with animes or movies or anything like that. Just with gaming, you just have so much focus going on. So I unfortunately had to go to the voice acting of the English voice acting, but it wasn't bad. It is as good as anime English voice acting is. And so I've been playing it. It's so anime. It's so crazy. The action is actually pretty fun. It's a button and mash kind of game with some combos here and there, but by chaining different attacks together and working with your team to attack. And so I just started it. I'm about like 2 hours in. The one gripe that I have about it is that the game's clock does not stop if you leave the game suspended. So I complete it. I left the game. I came back and it said 11 hours. I was like, no, dude, it's only been an hour of me playing. So I'm not even gonna know how long it took me to play this game, to be quite honest. So
Is that true with like quick resume too? It shouldn't be with quick
yes,
resume, right? It does.
it is. It keeps going.
What?
It just kept going. Yeah, I don't understand how that happened, but it just kept going. That's how I had it. Is it was just on a quick resume for me.
That seems weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's running based off of the clock regarding the console itself, but I don't know. But anyways,
Yeah.
that's everything that we've been playing. And what's up, Adam? You have anything else before we leave?
I will say I have not given up on Death Stranding yet. I
Thank
do
you,
plan to
sir.
go back at some point.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. You're doing that for me, Adam. That's just so you can know. You're doing that for me. That's what you're doing.
No, I honestly like the, as you said, those moments that are like you've done this traversal and it's been difficult, and then you come over and just like the moment of ease and the music fades in. Those moments in the game hit, and like I going back because of those and to see what else in the game hits like that. But
Totally.
yeah,
Totally. And I will say that, I mean, I can keep talking about Death Stranding,
sure.
but I love how this one band, Low Roar, how Kojima, he went to, I believe, Poland to just scope out the area because that's where the game is all based off of. He was in a music shop, heard the music from Low Roar playing in the speakers. Asked the guy at the counter, who's that? And he said, it's Low Roar. And because of that, their music is in the entire game. They were literally not a big band. They were just a local band. Boom, became million listens on Spotify. So after I was done with the game, I literally have been listening to the soundtrack of Death Stranding on loop. It is real. If you like indie music and soft, chill music, Low Roar is all over that album. Check it out. It is so good. Mm-hmm. And it's the messages in the songs and connecting with the story. It's really, really cool. So anyways, those who have been watching, those who have been listening, thank you for joining us here for this XP Podcast Level 22. If you enjoyed what you listened on the YouTube channel, give the thumbs up button and let us know in the comments what you think about all the stories that we talked about today. And for those who are listening on Spotify and even on YouTube, the prompt today is, what are your thoughts on the Elden Ring gameplay trailer? Are you excited? Are you convinced? Are you going to be getting it day one? Let us know in the comments. And all of our social links will be in the show notes. And guys, thank you for joining us yet again on this gaming podcast. Share this with your friends. Share it. And stay tuned for some more content coming your way very soon. So till next time, peace out.
See ya.